Module 3, Ways to Get Better Results. Taking notes and using your DIY tapping journal. There are so many tappers, both new and experienced, who do not take notes about the work they're doing, and they don't journal about it. They don't write down the results they've gotten, they don't keep track of it, and they don't write down the insights they've received from a tapping session on themselves or from someone else. Sometimes, when you're in the middle of working on yourself, you have a clear realization about what else needs to be worked on. And if you don't capture that on paper, chances are pretty slim that you'll remember it. I'm here to tell you right now that I am very guilty of this. I didn't use note-taking and journaling at all for years and years. We weren't really taught to do that back in the day. You just worked on it right there in the moment, and when it cleared, that was great. It just wasn't emphasized. But I'm going to tell you right now that if you do this, taking notes, you will really start to notice a difference. There are a lot of reasons for that, but like I said, some key ones are that you get to capture when you have realizations about what else you need to work on, or realizations about the cause of something. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of working on something and you have such a powerful realization of what caused this problem or what you need to address, or a memory pops up and you don't have time to work on it in that moment. It's so important to write that down. Another way that note-taking helps is that sometimes when you start tapping, if you've ever done a more intense session on yourself, you may notice that occasionally you go all over the place. You may go from piece to piece and you're moving from here to there. Unless you jot those parts down, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to go back to each one that came up. How are you going to remember all of those? Some people are quite gifted and they can remember most of the aspects, but most people can't. So writing it down is a very simple way to keep track of what you're doing. It's made a really big difference, even for my own tapping practice, to be able to go back and see, oh wow, I tapped on that a while ago. It's still an issue. Or there's a different part of it that's an issue. So what's that all about? What am I not seeing? You might see some patterns that you didn't see before, because now you have the information there right in front of you. Or you might see that you've cleared an issue that you had completely forgotten about. Sometimes when you tap, you get insights. Sometimes you get big aha moments or epiphanies, not just of other stuff to work on, but sometimes just about a situation. Sometimes you really gain a new perspective about something when you tap. It's lovely to capture that and write it down so that you can go back to it, because again, you'll probably forget. And sometimes there are nice big insights with visuals and everything for some people. Neat things can happen in the context of doing your self-work. Another reason to take notes is that sometimes you'll have an insight about the next thing you need to do, the next step you need to take. You might have an insight about inspired action you need to take to get you out of this thing, this pain, this problem, this situation. It may become clear as day as you're tapping. That happens all the time with clients, with myself. And if you don't write it down, you lose it. You'll forget. You might remember some of it, but if you have it all in one place, it really, really helps to refer back to all of that. Now, I think one of the most important reasons for keeping notes is the issue of problem amnesia that you learned about earlier in this module. It's when you forget that you had a problem or that you had intensity about an issue. It happens so often. I can't even tell you how common this is, so it's great to keep notes about your successes. Keeping notes helps you to keep sight of your progress. Sometimes, if you've got a big chronic issue that you're working on, it's easy to lose sight of progress because you might not be getting that problem to a zero. For example, I knew someone who had issues that always affected his stomach. His stomach was a constant source of discomfort and pain. It was a very sensitive place. It was kind of his go-to place anytime he experienced stress. And so when he continued to have occasional issues with digestion, even though he had made a lot of progress, he would fall into thinking that he wasn't getting anywhere with the tapping because the issues sometimes re-emerged. When I looked back through my notes and showed him, he realized that when we started working together and he started tapping on himself, he was having stomach issues about 5 to 6 days a week, and it was really hard. He was very limited in his diet, and there were all sorts of problems. And when he did have pain, it often went up to a 7 or an 8. And after so many sessions later, when he was doing work on himself, it was only a problem maybe 10 to 15% of the time. And when it was a problem, it only went up to a 4 or a 5. So had we not documented that, he still would have thought, I have this problem and tapping hasn't done anything. Well, I would say going from 4 to 5 days a week to once every 4 weeks or so, well, that's pretty darn significant. I don't think you can discount how amazing that is. This kind of situation also happens with depression and anxiety. People have panic attacks again and they think they've not gotten any better. Well, if you used to have panic attacks once a week and now you've only had one in 3 months, I'd say that's success. It takes time, which connects back to the value of persistence. Finally, when you keep track of your work, it gives you an opportunity to notice all of your victories. It's a chance to celebrate the self-work you've done. Otherwise, it's easy to forget. You might look back and say, holy mackerel, I cleared all of that. And if you have a regular tapping practice, you'll start to accumulate victories like it's nobody's business. It's really quite profound how much movement you can make. In summary, documenting things gives you some more perspective, usually a lot more perspective, a place to gather insights, a tool to help you remember, and to celebrate. So I really recommend note-taking and journaling using your DIY tapping journal.